Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Thank you for joining us. We will be talking emotions during the campaign. Let's see. Let me write it down. Let me pin it before I forget. Emotions and politics. I'm going to post it. Oops. Guys, I don't know why I'm always acting brand new. Like, I do this at least twice a week, and for some reason, I always tend to forget. But anyway, we are waiting for a good friend of ours to pop up. We will be speaking emotions. Amiga!
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Good, now that you're here. This is the Happy Friday dance. I love it.
I know, it's Viernes Chiquito, as my dad says.
What does your dad say?
He says Viernes Chiquito.
I love that. I'm gonna start using that. Shout out to Dad.
Yes.
Viernes Chiquito. I love that. My dad didn't come up with that. I'd be like, Dad, do better.
Come up with a catchphrase.
Yo, seriously, I'm gonna text him like right after this. Actually, while you're talking, I'll probably just like DM him like, yo, so this is what I heard today. Get on it.
I love that.
How have you been, boo?
Good.
Busy.
Processing, taking time to rest, recharge. Lots
Love
going
it.
on in the world.
Lots going on. So I just want to make it very clear to everyone that you and I are not professional in this. We are just speaking our emotions and our truth and kind of what we went through during this whole election process. So if you want, we can talk about pre, during, and then post. I know I was very absent during social media. I can honestly say last week I did not do any IG lives because I was like, mentally I won't be able to be there. I just won't be here. I won't. And like it's not like so much of like trying to back up like your haters or like your trolls. It's more just like what you need to do for yourself. So I would love to hear your journey or your experiences and your emotions and everything that you were going through, because it kind of sounds like a lot of us weren't alone, even though at times we feel like that.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Delicia. I am a career coach, educator, former Spanish teacher, CEO of Delilingo Academy. I support students who are in high school applying to college and also recent grads who are applying to jobs. So I support diversity and inclusion work as well for small business owners, as well as my experiences in higher education. And my family's from Paraguay. So I give kind of that background so you understand the lens through which I'm kind of speaking to and my own experiences, and kind of like Joanna said, we are speaking from our lived experiences, our feelings, our emotions that we're kind of processing and using this platform and digital space to connect and build community. I think I'm so grateful to be here.
We're so happy to have you. I'm so excited that you were able to join us. So the last time I think I talked to you was in October. That was the last time. And then like after that, I think it's kind of when election went full throttle. So explain to me, and I guess it's different, right? Because I live in Chicago, and then you live on the East Coast. And then I know I've spoken to some of the Mujerista sisters that live in the South, and it just sounds like even though we were all going through the same emotion, we all kind of had it play out differently for us. And I think that just has to do with like geographically, right? So where you reside, do you feel like you were a little more isolated? Did you feel like you were alone, or did you feel like you can count on your community and they were feeling kind of the same way that you were?
Absolutely. I'm in Pennsylvania, so for people who don't know where I am, and I grew up in New Jersey, so tri-state area, very much East Coast kind of feel. And I always say I'm still a Jersey girl at heart, but I'm repping Pennsylvania hard because we turned blue. So I was very proud to be a Pennsylvania voter this election cycle, especially in Monroe County, which was highlighted as turning blue as well, which was I think indicative of the community organizers in this area. And I was just so excited and was celebrating with them. And last election cycle, I worked the polls. So I was in it all day. We started at 5 a.m. and we ended at 11 p.m. until the last vote was sealed and sent to the Electoral College and all of that processing. But I chose this time because of COVID and everything going on to not work the polls. But I love the comparison of 4 years ago when I was there in it and like helping people through it. It was a lot of fun to be part of that, civically engaged. And then this year I was a little bit more on social media the day of because I was not at the polls. So I was like, I need to be engaged. I need to talk to people. I need to see what's going on. I had the news on. But when you're working the polls, you don't have access to your cell phone, and
Right.
you can't look at social media, and you can't talk to anyone besides being in the polling election day. And I voted.
And
Oh, God.
yeah, and I actually was going to ask you, like, how is it being in the trenches compared to like what, like, I guess just people who aren't in the trenches,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because like I did, like I was not aware that you can't be on your cell phone or that
Mhm.
you can't be out. I mean, granted, I understand because you guys are just doing a lot of work,
Right.
so timely wise, but I'm assuming like also law wise, you can't really be on any sort of media outlet.
Absolutely. And so it's a very great experience. If you've never done it, I highly recommend it for people to do it. Not even only a presidential election, but any local election, just to get the feel for it, because it's very honorable. Like you have to pledge under oath. You have to say certain things that the judge of elections tell you to say, that you're going to do it fair, that you're going to uphold the Constitution, that you're going to uphold democracy. So it's a very, very intentional experience that the judge of election manages the day of, and also all the other people that are there. There people have different roles. So I was a poll worker, and we had training beforehand, and we had to understand how to look at people's licenses, how to scan people, how to make sure that people aren't double voting. And it's a very tedious process that I'm very grateful that I was able to do 4 years ago, because I can understand a little bit more how to show up in a civic way as an average citizen, right? I'm not a politician. I haven't run for office, so I live my life daily as an educator. However, I was still able to participate in this democratic process of elections, which I think is super, super indicative of how the US is run, how they want to include and incorporate the average
Right.
citizen as part of this democracy, which I think is super powerful.
Right, right, because you were just an average person, right? And like doing like more duty than like me, but then you got like a different insight, right? Or like different intel than like we know. So it to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounded like 4 years ago you couldn't be as emotional about it because of the fact that you were in
Right.
it, right? So you were in it, you were in the trenches compared to this past election where you decided, health wise, I'm not going to do it, but you decided to be more online, right, and to have
Yes.
more of a media presence. How walk us through, because I can only imagine like, you went literally from not having any media contact to having all the media just being like poured out like vomit, right? Almost
Yes.
like it wouldn't stop coming through. So tell us like the difference between that and then what you did this year, because that's a lot. That's a whole 180 range of emotion.
Absolutely. And another thing I want to add is that people can no longer show up for their candidate or whoever they want to vote for at the polls, right? So there is a certain distance where people can put their signs or whatever, but inside the polling, there can be no discussion of who you're voting for and no campaigning, right? So very neutral, very mute. There's no discussion about it, even internally with the poll workers. So like you said, it's a 180 switch to this year. I was very vocal on social media to make sure people were voting and to make sure that people who wanted to be in office to get elected. So I was on Instagram posting whatever I was learning through the different media channels, as well as on TikTok. I actually went viral on TikTok. I did a video of Latinas Go Blue representing Paraguay, like the flag.
I saw that. Yes.
So I was so excited because that's how I was processing. I was like, let me have fun. Let's dance. Like, let's show up in this democracy authentically who we are. So I said, okay, let's do this. And so I did it on a whim. And my mom helped me film it. And we're like, here's the flag, let's dance. So I danced it, and then the views kept coming in. And I was like, this is a 6-second video. So how is this getting so much popularity? But I guess this is the Latina voice, right? The Latina power of getting our voices heard. And I really wanted to represent Paraguay, a small country in South America. So I really wanted to give visibility and representation of that. That's the biggest reason I did it. And so that's how I showed up. I was answering questions. I was responding to comments. I was sharing all of that, and also any news media outlets that were sharing what was happening day to day, which ended up being a week-long kind of process because it was extended, right, until the elections was officially announced by the media outlets, right?
Right. Shout out to Paraguay. That's amazing. I'm glad you were able to do that. And then shout out to South America in general.
South America.
I'm half South American, so I'm like, shout out there.
Yeah, where is your family from?
I'm half Ecuadorian, half El Salvadorian.
Yeah.
But it's okay. So it sounds like you were able to keep your emotions very much on check, because you were basically throwing out a lot of media news, keeping people informed. Whereas in turn, I did the complete opposite. I stood like a hermit. People were like, girl, but you're still on IG. And I was like, it's like I'm on the DMs for IG. So like I technically aren't even opening actual Instagram. And when I would literally just scroll down to 3 or 5 and then wrap it up. Like I really couldn't. I couldn't handle anything start from Tuesday on to Saturday. And so I guess the question is, right, like I became a hermit and I shut down because I was like, I don't want any interaction. I don't want to, I did my part. I came up with a plan for my family. I was texting my primas, I was texting my primos. Like I even ended up taking my brother's ballot because he had to work. And so we made sure that we filled that out correctly. But as long as my game plan, like my tribe had done their part and I had a few posts on IG, I was like, okay, great. Like this is as much as I can handle. How do you, I guess for you, how did you mentally keep yourself going and not get so bombarded with the question? Sorry, the question is, how were you able to keep your energy with informing people while you were getting all of this other media stuff just coming in through, whether it was Twitter, TikTok, regular web pages? How did you just keep it together?
So I actually want to, maybe not thrive is the word, but I love being engaged and involved as to what is happening in real time. So that actually fuels me and my energy. But in order to stay, I guess, up to date and not really burnt out as to what was happening, I definitely took breaks. I wasn't on it 24/7. So I took some breaks in between as to when I'm like, okay, I'm consuming too much. Let me roll it back a little. Even though this is a lot of fun, let me roll it back. And so paying attention to that, making sure I was staying hydrated and drinking water, tea. I drink coffee. I love coffee. So, well, dehydrating with coffee, but staying, I guess, liquids, right? And then staying home, resting, and really just engaging in the outlets that I knew would provide vetted information, right? So not so much fueling maybe a news that is not so accurate or vetted, but really paying attention to who are the vetted sources and who is talking about what I want to learn, right? So I was keeping tabs like, what is the Latino turnout looking like? That's something I'm interested in. Who are the organizers that are working with them? How do I tap into them as organizations? And then obviously the big news, right, of who won the Electoral College and staying up to date, and also through comedy. There were a lot of comedians and a lot of content creators coming with like memes and videos, like dragging Nevada, for example. And like at the end of the day, that made you laugh and that helped you get
Yeah.
through it, even though it might not be as accurate or it might not be as what is actually happening in Nevada, but it's still kind of our interpretation through comedy, which is, I think, a tool to stress relief, right? We have to laugh. We have to experience joy as a form of processing what's going on. Because if we don't experience joy, then we're like, what else do we have?
No, you know what? That's a great point that you bring up, and I can attest to that and be an advocate of that. I think that week, I did not turn on any news. Like, I was not allowed to turn on the TV for myself, like, no social media. But, like, I'm a huge Trevor Noah fan. Like, shout out to Trevor
Yes.
Noah.
If you're listening, we love you.
Just in case, just por si acaso.
Tag
Trevor.
him.
But to your point, like I was just like, okay, I can't handle anything, but I can handle him. And who was the other? If it wasn't Stephen Colbert, I was watching Jimmy Fallon. But it's always Trevor, and then one of them, or both. But yeah, like really, really good point. That's definitely how I kept up, if you will. Because I couldn't, I really just couldn't handle it mentally in any other way. And then another good point that you brought up, which I think is very, very important because we brought it up in our internal meeting for the Mujeristas, was how to, like in our community, right, in the Hispanic Latino community, how to make sure that our parents have access to the correct sources, and how to make sure to double check how to help them be able to double check to make sure that their sources are correct. Because, for example, in my family, like in the Salvadorian side, we all use WhatsApp. Like, let's just do it. Right? Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And so one of our girls was telling us that like her father had gotten like some source of information from like el tío, but el tío got it from like el abuelo, and so her dad ended up getting it, and then he was kind of like sharing it, and she's like, Dad, like this is not correct information. Where are you getting this from? He was like, oh, bueno, fulano me lo mandó. Like, so if he sent it, it means it's true. And she was like, no, Dad, like, so she literally almost like, she was just like, the good thing about once I confronted him about it is that he kept on asking me like, Mija, is this true? Like he would forward everything that he would get and be like, Mija, is this true? Like what's going on here? What's this? So she would either have to like debunk it or be like, yes, that's correct. Or yes, that source is credible. No, this source is not credible.
Right.
And I think that's something that, I mean, that should be a discussion for a whole nother day, but I
Right.
definitely want to bring it up because I feel like a lot of our Latino community gets their information from Facebook, and then they just like tag it onto WhatsApp and then spread it all over within their communities. And then WhatsApp now is owned by Facebook, so it's kind of like all intertwined. And I think that's like that's a big issue, and that's a big problem, because that's how you spread misinformation. So I'm really happy that you were able to go out there and source credible sources.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
And do the work. You're basically doing the work.
Yeah, you know? In a digital way.
Right. Absolutely.
I love WhatsApp because it connects you to the world, right? So I have a lot of friends from when I lived abroad. I lived in Spain, Australia, and Brazil through various programs. And I had friends that day texting me. They're like, is this true? Is this valid? Like, what is actually happening on the ground? What is really going on? So I would also, similar to you, your your WhatsApp vetting kind of resources, I would be like, no, this isn't really credible. This is true. This is a meme that's cropped. This is a picture that's cropped onto another piece of information. So it was really interesting to see kind of the world view of what's happening internally, and then from inward out explain what's going on, because I also don't think that people don't understand what the electoral college is and how to explain that to
Very true.
people abroad. And friends in Brazil were like, why is it taking more than 2 hours to count the ballots? Like, we know 2 hours after the elections are done. And I was like, well, this is a different system. This is a different
Right.
thing that's happening with COVID. A lot of states have laws that they can count until November 6th or 9th or 10th because
Right.
of COVID and mail-in ballots. So they didn't really know those laws. So explaining that to them, I think, was really informative for them to also
Right.
understand that they shouldn't take something at face value that is spread globally, right?
Absolutely. Or like I know a lot of the states too had like if you had like you can go online check to make sure that
Yeah.
your
Yes.
ballot was valid, and if it wasn't, then you had between 5 to 7 days, depending on which state you lived in, to go correct it.
Right.
And so like some people weren't even aware of that depending on where they lived because they weren't informed. So I know that was like another whole big media push too. It's like, please check your ballot. If it's not valid, go make it valid.
Yes.
Yeah, which I think like now, right, with social media, like that's such a great way to have information passed in such a short amount of time. I mean, that can be like within seconds.
Yeah. I was like
Um,
refreshing my page. Like, is it recorded? Are we good? Do I need to do something?
so now that we're post-election,
Hmm.
how are your emotions running? How are you still keeping up with the game? What, because there's like, right, there was like a almost like a sigh of relief on Saturday, I would say. But then, like, as the day went on, because we all found out in the morning, and then as the
Right.
day went on, it was kind of like, okay, cool, but there's still so much more work to do.
Right. That's a great question. And what is happening now, kind of after we celebrated and kind of rested on Sunday, and I say like I regrouped on Monday, it's like, okay, this is great. We're moving in the right direction, but this isn't over yet, right? We have so much work to do still. And what's happening right now that's important to keep in mind is the Georgia runoff elections that are happening
Yes.
on January 5th. So right now, Georgia and all the coalition builders there are working to get all the people registered to vote that can vote by December 7th is their deadline to register, and then get people to the polls, especially young adults who are 17 and turning 18. Before the deadline, they can vote. They can register to vote in that election. So that they might not have been eligible for the presidential election this year, but they're
Right.
eligible for the runoff election. So that's really important right now, that a lot of political activists and people on the ground are pushing, because yes, we have this presidential election, which is what people usually pay attention to, but we also have
Correct.
to look at what happens next, right? The Senate. So if you don't understand
Yeah.
what the runoff election is, it's because a candidate did not get 50% or more of the votes, so they have to go to this runoff election. And what happens if we get two Democrats there? That means that Mitch McConnell leaves his majority seat, and that changes how policy is going to be implemented, not only in Georgia, but nationally, which is huge. That's really important also for our Latino community because of what's happening at the border, right? So
Very important.
we have to
Yes.
pay attention to that and the policy that's going to come from that. So that's, I think, where my activism is right now, is really paying attention to supporting Georgia, getting as many people to call, like make calls as volunteers, to donate money, and to really pay attention. If you're not a Georgia citizen, how can you show up? And there's 4 different organizations that are really working towards that. So I can share that really quick. One is
Absolutely. No, please do. Please do.
Caroline.
I was gonna say, like, it was funny because Stacey Abrams was on Stephen
Yeah.
Colbert, I believe it was on Monday, and they were just like, "How are you doing?" Like, blah blah blah, and she was like, "Yeah, I celebrated for like 15 minutes. I'm good, so I'm back on the trail." And it was just like, "Here goes Stacey yet again, like bossing it up per usual." Like, Yeah, I know you had like 15. And I remember that. She's like, yeah,
Yeah,
I like celebrated for 15 minutes and went back in.
I know. That's what Andrew Yang, he is moving to to Georgia to help John. So the two candidates, really quickly, are
Yes.
John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. So
Hmm.
Andrew Yang went on CNN and he was like, "I'm moving to Georgia to help him get
I
elected."
saw
I was like, "Oh my God."
Yeah, yeah.
So really quickly, the four that are really important right now are georgiademocrat.org, which is the general information that you can learn about, fairfight.com, progeorgia.com, and georgiastandup.org. So those are kind of the on the grounds grassroots organizers that are helping Stacey Abrams really, or Stacey Abrams is helping them really come together to get those two Democrats elected
Hmm.
into office now. So if you're in Georgia and you're listening, please vote, register to vote if you can. And if you're not in Georgia, volunteer to make calls, check out these websites to see how you can stay up to date, donate. I think it's important to keep in mind that even though we are past presidential election and we are still kind of in that, but also
Hmm.
citizens of this democracy, there's still some action we can take, even if we can't vote in Georgia, which I think is really, really important still.
Yes, look at you killing it and educating us at the same time. I love it.
Yes. I wouldn't be an AP government and politics nerd if I didn't know this.
But I love it. I love it. Like
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, oh yes, like perfect.
Yeah.
Of course we're gonna have her
Yeah.
on. All right, Mama. So what are your, now that we're coming up to time, what are the
Yes.
next steps that you're doing for you and your business, and how can we help you out as Mujeristas?
Absolutely. So, if you are needing any support with career development, career coaching, anything with graduate school, I just did a how not to pay for grad school presentation. So you can
How not to pay for grad
how
school?
not to pay for grad school.
Okay, okay. Now I might go to grad school.
Yes,
Girl, but
yes,
those student loans are very real.
they're
Like,
very
I don't
real.
know about that. They're
Yes.
very real. Yeah, yeah. I might
So,
have to join into the other. When if you ever do a 2.0,
yes,
I may be down. I
yes.
may be interested.
Stay
Yes.
tuned. We're thinking. I joined Dr. Kiona, who manages the How Not to Travel Like a Basic B travel page. So if you go to my personal page, you'll see the links there and how you can get the replay. But you can also join us in January. We're tentatively going to do part two. So stay
Okay.
tuned for that. If you need support with your resume revamp in a weekend, I have a little mini course for you. So you can DM me, get that information. And also, my profile has the link to all the kind of resources and freebies that I can support you with: resume writing, cover letter prep, interview prep, and also political activism, because we are part of this democracy. So we have to
Absolutely.
really show up with our action steps. Even if it seems like so little, like our vote did matter, our vote counted. So I,
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, there were some states that we never thought we would see turn blue, and it definitely had to do with all the activism. It definitely had to do with a lot of people in the trenches just working from the ground up. A lot of us, like, yeah, technically you weren't there,
right,
right? Like geographically, but you were out here nonstop on your own platforms, and use that to your advantage
right,
with educating everyone that's on your platform. So that's amazing and that's great. And I commend you for that because not everyone does it and not
right.
everyone, puts in their part. Like some people are just like, well, I voted, I showed up, and that was it. But it's a lot like now it's just that's not enough. There's just so
Right.
much more that you have to do behind the scenes. Um, Other than Instagram, where can we find you at?
You can find me at www.deliciaalarcon.com. That is my main website that has the most up to date things. You can find me on TikTok as TikTok Career Coach, literally TikTok Career Coach. So come find
And your
me.
TikToks are bomb. Like they're hilarious. I'm like,
come,
because
come.
it's like one complete opposite thing to the other. Like it's funny because I guess maybe like when I grew up, it was always like education was very like straight and narrow, and
Yeah.
it was very rigid, and there was a certain formula to it. And then I see you like shaking your booty. And I'm like, okay, girl. Like, I didn't know education and twerking go hand in hand. Like,
Yes,
that's amazing.
you can have both. You can have
You
fun
can.
and learn. So that's kind of my motto. And what I did as a Spanish teacher, we just danced it out all day. So,
Love it.
and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Delilingo Academy. I have resources there and trainings and more goodness.
Awesome. Well, before I let you go, I'm going to let you know that Paulette Pinero actually gave you a shout out on my IG. She's just like, yes, everyone needs to be like these. And I was like,
Oh, I
I
love
know.
Paulette.
We all, like Paulette, we
We
all
love
love Paulette.
you.
We love you, girl. She's doing a book club tonight, and I'll be joining in later on because I have some Mujerista stuff to do. But I'm like, yes, girl, you're
Yes.
amazing. You two are out here killing it on the East Coast. East Coast
Yes.
girlfriend. Love it. All right, Boo. Anything else before we let you go?
Does anyone have questions? Who's ever on? I don't. I wasn't keeping track if there was any questions. But yes.
We got a hello. We got a lot of hellos, a lot of waves, and a lot of hugs.
Hey.
So
Yeah. So stay rested, recharge, do what you got to do to kind of stay at ease,
hydrate. Hydrate.
hydrate. Kind of don't feed the neurosis kind of anxiety that's going on. There's work to be done, but also we have to stay grounded in order to make that happen.
Very true. Very good words. I love that. Stay rested, recharged in order to revamp and keep the fight.
Yes.
Okay, mujer. Well, mwah, besos. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to hang out with us.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I can't wait to see you again and for us to chop it up and see what else you have in line and
Yes.
in store. Yes. Okay. Mwah.
Ma,
Bye.
besos.
Besos.